Now, the University of South Africa, UNISA's School of Business Leadership and the African Continental Free Trade area are hosting an international engaged scholarship conference. Now, the aim of the conference is to facilitate multi-stakeholder collaboration towards an operationalization of an enabling Africa Continental Free Trade, focusing on how countries that have experienced banking financial crises can develop strategies to mitigate the challenges in the continent. Now, the focus also looks at the causes for the financial crises in 5 selected countries. And for more on this, we're now joined by Professor Nhlanhla Mlitwa, who's the Director of the Digital and Innovation and the Chairperson of the Research Portfolio at the UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
What inspired this gathering? You know, we've read this introduction to the conversation. What was it that you saw, do you think, that created this compelling conversation?
Thank you, Peter. If you don't mind, I would wish just to contextualize it a little bit more accurately. The University of South Africa's UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership has got 4 focus areas, and the first one is called digital transformation. The second one is called sustainable livelihoods, and the third one is called Africa Continental Trade and Investments. Now, pushed by that focus area, which is Africa Continental Free Trade and Investment, we were motivated by the AU's 2063 agenda. The third item out of the 7 agenda items, the third one is Africa Continental Free Trade area. So that was the motivation for us that says the Africa Continental Free Trade area has been conceptualized by multiple stakeholders. So the agenda is clear. But along with the idea is the sentiment that says we want Africa, we want to develop Africa that we want. Developing Africa that we want cannot be done in isolation by dictates of selected individuals. It needs a collaborative effort by multiple stakeholders. That is the motivation, Peter, for us to then say, let us create a platform that says conceptually Africa Free Trade area is there, but now how do we operationalize it so that we avoid mistakes? So that's the motivation.
So what's come out of this engaged scholarship?
The good thing about the Engaged Scholarship Conference is that it captures the sentiment of co-creation and collaboration among multiple stakeholders so that no voice is left neglected or unheard. Now, what happens is that the conference opened up on Saturday, opened up on the 14th, and is closing on the 16th. Of essence on the opening of the conference was the presence of multiple key stakeholders who first agreed on the agenda, who then also agreed on the exigencies that needs to be tackled in terms of this operationalization. The Vice Chancellor of the university representing the academia, which is an important stakeholder, the Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade area body was there to express the sentiments from that end. The commission, the Deputy Competition Commissioner was there to represent their side of the voices. The Mayor of Johannesburg, the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg was there to present another side of this. And then we also had a guest from Botswana, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Botswana, who was here. So all those dignitaries represented specific voices. And then we had about 150 delegates who have conducted research, who were also there to also express and contribute to this collaborative, co-creative message about operationalization. The agreement can be summed up, let me say, lessons can be summed up in a number of ways. An example was given by the Secretary General of AfCFTA to say that an example of Germany after the Second World War was to speed up and strengthen the manufacturing sector, and a number of sectors have already been identified, but Africa now appears to be a bit left behind. So that's a lesson, that strengthening the manufacturing sector in a number of areas, and Africa choosing, because Germany chose, among others, the automobile industry. So Africa needs to choose specific key areas that it sees itself as having what is called a comparative advantage that leads to a competitive advantage. So that is one of the lessons, selecting key specific areas of focus where Africa as a continent can have a comparative advantage and a competitive advantage. Secondly, embracing more practically the principle of co-creation and collaboration. And the example that was given is the case of Africa having a vast amount of land as a continent now, but still reliant on countries such as Ukraine and Russia in terms of importing grain. Why is it not producing its own? Because it lacks capacity. How can you elude the lack of capacity out of operating in silos as individual countries? The saying is, united we stand, divided we fall. It's about time that Africa now refocus, adopt seriously the principle of co-creation and collaboration so that we can then together stand.
These are great visions, great ideas, and as with most things, it's really about how do we get it off the ground. I wonder if the right people are sitting in the room, the politicians that can sign things off, because some people feel that the post-colonial borders are locked harder than the pre-colonial borders. And so that's going to take quite a bit of effort and a bit of commitment from those that lead us to unlock.
The good thing, Peter, is that at a central continental level, because the AU is a multinational, if you want to consider African countries as nations, despite you having spoken about borders, because there's debate even about borders, that they come from colonialism and they are not genuine borders, they are imposed borders. But let's just say, from where we're sitting now, we do have things called borders. The essence of an agreement from the conference is once again the co-creation rather than imposing. When politicians, when administrators, policymakers, but also industry leaders, technology innovation drivers come together and say, we've had too much of talk, we've seen many policies, we want to agree on how to do it, and we want to inform the agenda of operationalization, how to do it. And I think, Peter, that is a great start. And I think that's the route that we should take in order to achieve the goals of the Africa that we say we want.
Yeah, Agenda 2063. All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but can I make a date with you that at the end of the conference that we can have this conversation again and just discuss what has come out of it and what we can look forward to?
We would love that, Peter. We would love that very,
fantastic.
Very much.
Okay.
I will have to hear from you.
I'm going to make that happen because I think this conversation is very, very important. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Great.
Right. Okay, there'll be a part 2 to that conversation because I think it's a pretty important one to engage with. We were joined by Professor Nhlanhla Mlitwa, the Director of the Digital and Innovation, as well as the Chairperson of the Research Portfolio at the University of South Africa, UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. I wonder how big his business card is with all those titles. You're watching The Globe.